Today we will discuss the Nikon Z6II, or as I like to call it, the Nikon Z6II. Hey guys, Omar here, and today I'm doing kind of like a preliminary status report on the Nikon Z6II. I've done a couple of shoots with it. I've gone out and photographed like flowers and awesome city scenes. But I made a list of things I love. It's hiding behind this plant so you can't see it, but it's all right here. The magic of YouTube. Anyway, those of you that were upset that we didn't talk about Fujifilm, I have placed some Fujifilm cameras for those of you to stare at. Okay, the first thing that impressed me about the Nikon Z6II was the color straight out of camera. I know we talk about that it doesn't matter. You could shoot raw and process the images in your raw processor and get the same colors in different camera brands. We know. However, there is a market for shooting raw, bring it into the computer, and having the raw file be easy to edit. I did a whole video on how to get great colors out of Sony cameras. So when I shoot events, I am like processing these Sony files to make them look vibrant and rich. And it turns out that Nikon colors are already vibrant and rich straight out of camera. Now, if you like moody tones and like classic chrome kind of stuff, you're gonna have to really massage the Nikon files to look the way you like. So there is something to be said about, color science if it makes your job easier. I took a picture of this corn Mexican delicious thing we were eating, and straight out of camera, both the JPEG and the RAW, like the yellows and the reds, you could just taste delicious food right out of the screen. And so that's number one, is colors straight out of camera. Number two, the ergonomics of the camera are a lot better than my Sony. Here, my Sony has what we call pinky syndrome. So if you hold on to this, they made the camera smaller, but the grip sort of ends before, if your hand is larger, your pinky kind of gets cramped up there. It's not a big deal, but for the Sony, I have to add an additional grip to the bottom of the camera. With the Nikon, you don't have to add a grip, which keeps the weight down, which is great. So I like the grip on the camera. Okay, third preliminary report on the autofocus. It's great so far. It's absolutely great. For the portrait sessions I've shot, the camera pretty much 95+% will always find an eye, and I've been getting shots that are tack sharp. So autofocus will depend on the type of photography you do and what mode works for you, because they have the typical mode of a little box in the center. That could be what you use forever. If the type of photography calls for a little center box and you're single focus, that's all you need. Now, more advanced stuff like eye autofocus, once you go eye autofocus, you don't want to go back to DSLR and moving your focus point. You have more of an opportunity to interact with your subjects and get great looks if the camera is taking care of the eye autofocus. Right now, this is taking care of eye autofocus. Look, we'll show you a camera here. Okay, here's the Fujifilm X-E2. Find my eye. You see, so if the camera takes care of all that other stuff, you can concentrate on getting great expressions or working on your composition with, focusing on a person or an animal. It does animal eye autofocus. But I love that the camera always found an eye. I say 95% because rookie mistakes, I still am figuring out the camera, so I don't want to report back on autofocus. Now, the autofocus zone that worked great for me was a wide zone. That means the camera is looking at the entire scene, and it's set for people, so it's always looking for an eye. And like I said, 95% of the time it found an eye. When it didn't, I had one of the function buttons set on the front to give me a box right away. And that leads me into my third favorite thing about this camera. It has an awesome, I call it like focus recompose mode. And that is the function button I set on the front. You push, you get a little box in the center, and then if you just point that at an object, like if I point it at this plant, I can move my camera around and the focus will just stay on whatever you pointed to. So when the eye autofocus didn't work, I hit that little function button as I was freaking out and put the square on someone in the group, and it just It just autofocused. So that last 5 to 10% that couldn't find an eye because backlighting or I did something wrong, that center quick focus point took care of me in all the other situations. We'll segue into the next one, which is those two front function buttons. Function, now I wish more camera companies would put function buttons on the front because it allows you to push a function button and then you got your little, prehensive grip here if you want to change your settings. So I like front function buttons, and that's one of the bonuses so far that I found. Status report on the Nikon Z. Stop it. Okay, what's next? The touchscreen is great. I always complain about Fujifilm's touchscreen. Canon's touchscreen is great. Sony doesn't even have a damn touchscreen that goes through the menus. But the Nikon screen, first of all, is beautiful, and touching your settings and changing your settings works great. It's kind of like a phone. Swiping through your pictures, pinching, love. So the experience on the screen was done beautifully, and the screen is beautiful. The EVF is great too. I saw some people's reviews that they were like, they wish the EVF was like a 5-point million Johnson, but goes to my next point here, value. The price of this camera, I'm not all about these $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 cameras that are coming out. Give me value, cut corners, and maybe they cut corners on the viewfinder, but the viewfinder is still beautiful. And this is a sub $2,000 camera. So there's value in this, so I don't see why you would complain about a viewfinder that's not the high-end one. If they made it the high-end one, then it'd have to be like $2,600, $3,200. Stop. Now, I only used it on a few portrait sessions, so I don't want to report on the stuff I'm still testing. I'm gonna do an overall review, but I'll end with I'm loving the photographs I'm getting from the camera. They're easily massaged to look the way I like. Rich colors with, if I wanna put a film curve on there, I can get portraits that look filmy a little bit. I don't wanna add LUTs or presets or tones or curve. I don't wanna edit photos. I want them to come out of camera looking great, and I'd rather have great photographs that have wonderful expression and smiles and laughs and hugs. The images that are coming from the camera are like really, really gorgeous. I'm super impressed right away. I can't wait to use it on other types of photography like landscape and street to give you an overall report of what I think of the Nikon Z6II. All right, I'll see you guys next time.